I'm your host, Peter DeLucia, and I'd like to welcome you to an updated fall edition of the Gardens of Lewisboro. I'm here at Copia Home and Garden, which is right off Route 123 in Vista. And today we're going to meet with the owner, Jennifer Cipriano, and she's going to show us everything that Copia has to offer. They've got pumpkins, they've got gorgeous mums, and they've got gourds and lots of things for this holiday season. So why don't we speak with Jennifer and check out Copia Home and Gardens. So I'm here with Jennifer Cipriano, the owner of Copia Home and Gardens. Jennifer, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Doing great. It looks like you have the whole place ready for the holidays.
Absolutely.
So we start off with Halloween, we go to Thanksgiving, and then we go to the whole Christmas and Hanukkah season. My God, there's a lot of stuff.
It comes fast and furious.
But I want to know about this.
This is one of our jumbo gourds.
A jumbo gourd, as opposed to like a medium gourd and a small gourd.
Yes.
So if you want to know where to get a jumbo gourd this season, there's only one place to go, and that's Copia Home and Garden, because they have jumbo gourds. So other than these jumbo gourds, what else do we have here for the fall decorating season?
Oh, we have some beautiful pumpkins, some gorgeous mums, and we also have beautiful ornamental kale that will last all winter long. And a lot of our gourds and pumpkins are locally sourced from upstate New York.
So mums like these right over here.
Uh-huh.
Now, when do you put these mums out? Can you plant them? Will they come back next year?
Well, it depends. You can get them to come back next year if you plant them in the ground, water them really well, and mulch them over for the winter.
So they need to have some protection.
Yeah, they do need to have some protection. But a lot of the varieties of mums now are Belgian types, and they are winter hardy if you protect them that first season.
Well, they're beautiful, and they come in so many different colors.
They are. They're amazing. But, you know, we might have a few frosts, and so that'll limit the lifespan of the flowers. So sometimes we can make it to Thanksgiving with the mums, and sometimes we can't. It
now,
depends.
what about inside? Could we keep them inside if we want them for
You
Thanksgiving?
can, if you give them enough light and keep them well watered, absolutely.
Because they might make a nice centerpiece for a Thanksgiving
Yep.
table, whether it's with the giant gourds and the mums and some pumpkins. You got a lot of options.
Absolutely, absolutely. Or you could actually throw a little frost cover or a sheet. If you know there's going to be a frost that evening, you could just throw a frost cover or sheet over them to protect the flowers.
What about deer resistance? Are the mums deer resistant, or do we need to do something?
Well, no, actually deer like them. So what you need to do is spray them with a deer repellent. Bob-X works great, or we have a number of other deer repellents. You choose whatever you think you prefer. It is good to change your deer repellent from time to time, so sometimes they get used to something, one particular repellent over another. So if you've been using Bob-X, you might want to use Deer Stopper or one of the others.
So shake it up a little bit. Don't let them get used to any one thing.
Exactly.
What about like Milorganite or something like that? Like when you plant them, if you put it in the pot, and would that work?
Yeah, absolutely. Milorganite works really well, and it acts as a little bit of a fertilizer. You could spread that around your lawn. It acts as a repellent, so you could just spread it all over, and it works really well.
Any other mum tips that you'd like to give our viewers?
Oh, well, other than, I don't know.
I stumped her. See that? Mum's the word here at Copia Home and Garden. Jennifer, we talked about kale. I think you've got a giant one in your hands. Why don't you tell me a little bit about it?
So these are ornamental cabbage and kale. They're really beautiful for their color. You can plant them in the ground or put them in containers. Keep them well watered through the fall. It's been pretty dry, so you want to keep them well watered. But they actually last almost the entire winter. And they get their best color as the season gets colder and colder. So they're not edible, but they're just really fantastic color foliage for the garden.
All right, so don't put them in your salad. That's not it.
Salad, they're not that. No, not a good idea.
And now, what about in a deer salad?
And the deer also will eat these as well. So, like we talked about with the mums, you want to use a repellent on these, and groundhogs also love them too. So, you want to use some sort of repellent on these as well. But it's just nice to have a little splash of color for the winter when everything else is passing.
All right, great. What else do we have to look at?
Oh, well, you know, now is the time to plant bulbs for the spring.
So why don't we go inside and take a look at a bulb selection?
That'd be great.
Great.
All right.
So what's Halloween without the great pumpkin? So we've got big pumpkins, medium pumpkins, and these cute little tiny pumpkins. Why don't you tell me everything there is to know about a pumpkin?
All right. Well, these Giant pumpkins are, of course, great for carving. You want to carve them closer to Halloween because you know all the little animals are going to want to eat them up. So what we recommend doing is carving them closer to Halloween. And I use a repellent on my pumpkins just to keep all the little animals and squirrels and chipmunks and things from eating them up.
So Bobex again.
Bobex again. Bobex R is good because it has a few added ingredients to repel all those little animals.
What about like I've seen people use Vaseline or shellac or things like that.
You could use that. Vaseline is a good one, or hot pepper. Sometimes hot pepper it will work as well. So just to keep them from eating.
Now, I love pumpkin pie. What about that pumpkin in your hand?
This is a sugar pumpkin. So you want to do all your baking and pumpkin making from these types of pumpkins. It's called a sugar pumpkin. It has a higher sugar content. And they're really easy. You just roast them in the oven and puree it, and you could use it in pie and everything else you make with pumpkin.
Now, how can you tell it's a sugar pumpkin if someone's there not to tell you? Is there some way that you can notice it, the difference between that pumpkin and this pumpkin?
Yeah, no, the sugar pumpkins are generally like the size of a volleyball, kind of, a little bit smaller. It has some good ribbing and a really rich orange color, and it usually has a nice thick stem at the top.
I can see it's a really deep color. Now, what about a little pumpkin like this? Are these just mini pumpkins, or what are they?
Those are just another variety selection of pumpkin. This one is called a cannonball.
A cannonball?
A cannonball pumpkin.
That.
Or another variety is called baby boo.
Okay.
That's the white one. There's white pumpkins and green pumpkins and all different colors now.
All right, Jennifer, we're by the Boxo gourds.
That's right.
You got little gourds, you've got giant gourds. I tell you, every Halloween, these freaky little things come out, and they last all the way through Thanksgiving. I see them on the Thanksgiving table, and they're in my house until the summertime, and they still are in the same form that I got them in. Tell me a little about these mysterious gourds.
Well, that's what we call them. We call them gourds. They're not edible. And thanks to nature and natural selection, they get funkier and funkier, and the growers just save the seeds and replant them the following year and get even funkier looking gourds. So that's what a gourd is. There are types of squash, though, like these, that are pretty and decorative, but they're also very edible and quite delicious. This is a dumpling, sweet dumpling, and this is a delicata. You've probably seen acorn squash. There's also butternut squash, and they're really delicious and very nutritious, actually.
So could you possibly decorate with some of these squashes and then put them in a soup?
Absolutely. You make a nice squash soup, or I just cut them in half, roast them in the oven with a little bit of butter and a little bit of brown sugar sometimes the kids like, or you can cut them, scoop out the centers, and put a stuffing in the center, and it's really quite delicious.
That sounds really good. I tell you, there's nothing like a good squash soup on a cold fall or winter's evening.
That's right, absolutely. Or on Thanksgiving, it's the best.
And now, what about, I see something, chicken corn, we used to call that all the time, or Indian corn.
Yeah, that's right. So Indian corn we just use for decorative use. It's quite hard. It is the old native type of corn, so they would grind it and use it for a meal. But now we just use it for more decorative use.
I tell you, they're really nice. You can hang them on your front door. You could put them with some corn stalks or whatever.
If you could keep the squirrels away.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, I'm ready to put down this giant gourd. I think it must weigh like 30 pounds. And why don't you show me around some more of the garden center?
Sounds good.
Why don't we talk about some of the evergreens? We've got the holidays coming. People like to use them for plantings, for putting them in front of the house, putting Christmas lights on them, holiday lights. Tell me a little bit about this little guy here.
This is a Hinoki cypress, and what we're doing now is taking all of our dead flowers out of containers and using these little dwarf conifers has arrangements for the holidays, but also throughout the winter. They stay evergreen. You can get a combination of different textures and colors going. And then what's nice is that you could, when you're done at the end of the winter, you could just take these plants out and pop them into the landscape.
Now, are they deer resistant?
Some of them are, and some of them aren't. The hinoki can be browsed, so you might want to spray something like this. But juniper, spruce, those tend to not be browsed as much by deer, so those would be less susceptible.
Now, the spruce, that's something right here?
Yeah. That's an Alberta spruce. So they're a dwarf type conifer. They only get about 6-7 feet tall at the most. They get quite fat around at the bottom, but it's still considered a dwarf type conifer. So they don't get very big, and they're perfect for containers.
So they can handle a container just as well as being planted around a foundation.
And you do have to remember, you still have to water them even throughout the winter time. If we don't get any precipitation, then you still have to make sure they get some water. But you can enjoy them throughout the winter in your containers, and then again, just plant them out in the spring.
So now we're inside the garden center, Jen, and we talked about bulbs. Why don't we go over some bulbs that are good for flowers, but some bulbs are good for cooking.
That's right. So now is the time to plant your flower bulbs for the spring. And we have a nice selection here. Daffodils are great.
One of my favorites are the daffodils.
Well, our golden roads.
Yeah.
And so daffodils are great because they're deer resistant and they're quite beautiful. This is a little dwarf tete-a-tete daffodil. And they're a nice naturalizing bulb, so you can plant them in mass and let them naturalize a woodland area. We always recommend planting more than you think with bulbs because more is better. You get a bigger impact of color if you plant more of them.
And naturalizing basically means that if I plant 20 bulbs this year, next year or 2 years from now, there might be 30 bulbs. So they just keep going.
Exactly. They multiply, and so that's what makes them nice for large areas, large woodland areas. But we have others like crocus and scilla. Alliums are great. Those are the big, giant purple flowers. Those are also deer resistant. And so they make really beautiful surprises in the spring.
Now, tulips are very pretty, but they're not deer resistant. Am I right?
That's right. Deer love them. So they're kind of tricky. You either have to have a fenced-in area where the deer can't get in, or use a repellent. But even with the repellents, it's kind of hard to keep them from the tulips. It's one of their favorites.
Now, I tell you, as an Italian, I love garlic. I love to cook with garlic. I love to eat garlic. And you know what? Garlic is also very good for you for fighting colds. So if you eat raw garlic, you can actually use that as a cold remedy, actually a cold preventer. So why don't you tell me a little bit about garlic?
Well, so now's the time to plant garlic if you want to harvest it in the summer of next year. So it comes just like you would buy a garlic head in the supermarket, but this has actually been conditioned so that it's good for planting. It's actually gone through a chilling period from the bulb supplier so that it can go out and be planted. It does have to have a chilling period.
So if you had garlic at home or if you bought garlic in a supermarket, that you really can't plant.
It might not plant, right. It might not germinate. So basically what you do is you break off the individual cloves and plant them out in your garden now. Mulch them over just a little bit, and then you rake the mulch away in the spring, and then they start growing like an onion, and all of a sudden they form a beautiful head of garlic. So one bag of this California soft neck garlic will give you a plethora of garlic to probably last you a whole year. And then there's some heirloom varieties like this Red Russian variety that's a very rich flavor. So they're really quite nice.
And how long will the garlic last after you pick it?
So it lasts a long time, actually. If you treat it properly, you let it dry for a few days, like in a garage out of the sun, so that you can wipe off all the dirt. And then you can either put them into cold storage, or I just keep them in a cool, not too warm, dark environment, and they last for a really long time.
So the drying process is something that's important after you actually pick it.
Exactly. And their flavor is next to nothing you would buy in the supermarket.
Oh, well, that's great. Like to get a little bit of linguine with garlic and oil using some of the fresh garlic.
Right, that's right.
Now, we've talked a lot about the deer, those pesky deer bothering all these beautiful plants. What are some of the products that you have or that you recommend to use to kind of stop the deer from destroying our garden?
Well, aside from fencing, which really is the best way to keep deer out of an area, the repellents, most of the repellents work really well. One that most people know about is Bob-X, and it does work really well, but I had mentioned before it's good to change up every once in a while. They do get used to something, the scent of something, and it won't work as effectively, so you have to switch. Now this is Deer Stopper, and this is a little more pleasant to the nose. I don't know if you've ever used Bob-X, but it's quite unpleasant. The Deer Stopper uses clove oil and rosemary oil, so it's a little more pleasant and works very well. It also has white pepper in it. This is the winter armor. There's also a summer armor. This is a really fantastic product because it has a sticking agent that holds to the shrubbery that allows it to protect for up to 6 months.
I see that. That's,
Yeah.
that's one of the things with a lot of these products. You have to keep going back every couple of weeks, or if you have a heavy rain, you have to remember to treat your shrubbery again. This is something that has an agent that helps it stay longer.
It does. This product really, I would use it for the winter. I wouldn't rely on it for 6 months just because you never want to risk that.
And I like this one here. It repels all. So even people you don't like, you could spray this around your property and, they won't come back.
It stinks. It really does. So, but this has added ingredients in it that also repels small. It's dried blood usually that repels the smaller animals like rabbits and skunks and squirrels and all kinds of other stuff.
Well, I like armadillos is something, and we have had a major problem with armadillos in our area. So if you need that, repels all. Armadillos, beavers, birds, cats, crows, chipmunks, deer. It's like a whole song, and a partridge in a pear tree, and you get them all off your property.
I don't know why you'd move to Lewisboro if you didn't like them, but
Well, Jennifer, this is great. All this information about the products and the bulbs, it's awesome. Now I want to go over one more thing and talk about the upcoming Christmas and holiday season. I see you have a tree set up already.
yeah, that's right. It's coming fast.
So now we're over by the Christmas tree. Jennifer, why don't you tell me about what Copia Home and Garden is going to do this holiday season and what you're going to carry?
Well, we love to do Christmas and the holidays, so we have everything you need for indoor decorating and outdoor decorating. So we wanted to show people a little early that we have Christmas. We never close. We're open year-round. So we wanted to get a couple of trees up just to show people we have ornaments and lighted trees for indoor and outdoor, fresh-cut Christmas trees, lights, roping, wreaths, everything you'll need to decorate for the holidays.
So you'll cover the gamut. Now, what about if I want a 15-foot tall cathedral-sized Christmas tree? Will you have those?
And do it, absolutely. We have beautiful ones that Peter sources out from the East Coast. He tries to get all his stuff from here, right here in the U.S. So we have some beautiful trees that we get in, anything from a little tabletop 3-foot tree, 2-foot, 3-foot tree, up to 18 to 20 feet.
And what if a tree like that is too much to handle? Can you guys deliver, set up, or even put lights up on the house?
Absolutely, we do all of that. We do delivery, we set up the tree for you if you'd like, and we also do lighting for the tree, the house, whatever you need.
Wow, fantastic. Now, if people want to learn more about Copia Home and Garden, can they go to a website?
Absolutely, it's www.copiahomeandgarden.com.
Well, you heard that, www.copiahomeandgarden.com. And I'd like to thank you, Jennifer, for having us here today to visit Copia and everything you have to offer.
Oh, it was a pleasure having you. Thank you.
I'd like to remind our viewers that Copia Home and Gardens is located right on Route 123 in the hamlet of Vista. I'd like to thank the owners of Copia Home and Gardens, Peter and Jennifer Cipriano, for inviting us in today. And I'd like to thank you for watching LCTV. Have a great day.
You're watching Lewisboro Community Television, Channel 20.